Hey, hi, how you going? It's me, Vostride, and today we're going over an updated best 30 base locations guide. Now, the reason I want to give you 30 is because I'm going to be breaking this down into 3 key categories and giving you 10 from each. So the first of those is going to be all of the best locations for resources, ranging from early to end game. The second is going to be my favorite category, which is the most aesthetic and unique locations to build at. And then the last is going to be areas with a lot of workability, which means big open spaces where there's not too many obstacles and you're going to have an easy time building. So with all that being said, let's get started. All right, so we're going to start this one off with all of the best resource locations. Now, the thing with this category is that it's very level dependent, because as you level up, you're going to get access to all of the different mining sites via your technology tree. So the higher level you are, the less you care about a specific resource being available as a natural node within your base. And remember, as always, if you enjoy the content, like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps support the channel a lot. And if you're looking for timestamps to jump around to the most suitable locations for you, they'll be in the description down below, and I'll include some information in there as to whether or not they're suitable for the early, mid, or late game. So the first coordinates we're checking out today are 918192, and this one is incredibly good for players of any level because it has 3 natural oil nodes, and oil is not something you can get access to via the tech tree. You need to build around the natural oil nodes, and by having 3 nodes here, you can build up to 6 extractors, as you can see I have. And in addition to that, it's just an incredibly aesthetic location. We're on this secluded island, we've got waterfalls, we've got trees, we've got the lagoons here, and there's another 3 oil nodes down here, so you can join the 2 to build a double base or whatever it may be. This is just going to be a fantastic aesthetic spot with really great resources. And in addition to that, if that wasn't enough, you also have access to a kinship peach spawn, which is, in my opinion, the primary reason you would want to build here. Because yes, oil is incredibly important, but once you get to the end game, there's not that many uses for oil, so you don't need it in abundance. You could just build, an oil base anywhere around the world, and you're going to get enough oil. However, kinship peaches are incredibly rare, and you need as many as you can get. So these have a 10% chance to spawn every day, and as long as the spawn is not blocked by foundation or anything like that, and it's within the perimeter of your base, then your base pals can collect those on their own. So every time you come back to your base, there's a good chance that you might find some of these just hanging out in your storage boxes. So in my opinion, this is the biggest reason to build here, in addition to just being a really nice place to build, and we've got the oil nodes. This is probably the best endgame spot in the game. The next coordinates we're checking out are at 151 -394, and this is a fantastic spot to set up your first mining base. So it's within like a 5-minute walk from the Plateau of Beginnings Way Shrine where you spawn in. It's just across the bridge here from the Chillet World Boss. And the other nice thing about this bridge is it makes it a lot more protected from raids. So you're not going to have a hard time with raids at all. That's the only way that they can get up. So it's easy to defend. And I think they actually spawn down here somewhere. So it takes them a long time to even get up there. They're probably going to run out of time and never get here in the first place. So it's nice and protected. You've got 8 nodes here, which is more than you're going to need in the early game before you get that mining site. I think this is a fantastic spot for new players. But the third location we're looking at on our resources list is at coordinates 3 -527. And again, this is another fantastic early game mining spot. You've got 7 ore nodes here, and it's really close to the starting way shrine, probably about a 10-minute walk that way. The views here are really nice as well. The autumn biome is one of my favorite in the game. You've got all of these trees looking absolutely phenomenal. You've got some nice views here over the water. You can even see the city from here, which looks great. And the workability in this location is a lot better than the previous location we looked at. You've got some nice flat working space there, and you've also got some flat ground down here, though you do want to be careful about where you build on this lower section, because if you place foundation pieces over those ore nodes, then they are not going to respawn. Next up, we're looking at location -983 -1321 over in this crystallized cave. Now, this one does come with a few caveats. The first is the entrance to the cave is at different coordinates at -908 -1319. And the second is I'm not actually sure what the devs intend for this cave, because it has been quote unquote patched a few times in the past where it wasn't working, and then it was working, and then it wasn't working again. But as of the time of recording, you can build a base in here, and the reason you would want to do so is because it has 4 nodes of chromite, which are one of those endgame resources that you cannot get via some sort of mining site. You have to farm it in the wild, and to do that, you will need to use Smokey's ability to dig it up, or a metal detector. And I still don't know if it's necessarily the best way to get chromite. You're probably better off just using your expedition stations or something like that. But nonetheless, if you want to build in this awesome cave, it is a really nice, unique, and aesthetic location regardless. And there are a few others that look just like this. I'll leave a map up on screen now so that you can see all of them. This is just the one that I picked for this guide. Next up, we're looking at coordinates 187, -37, and this one hits me right in the nostalgia. This is one of the OGs. If you're a longtime fan of Palworld, you've probably had a base or two here. Either way, if you're a newer player, this is a fantastic early to mid-game location. You've got a great combination of ore nodes as well as coal nodes, all within the space of one base. And it's atop this mountain here, so you're not going to have any issues with raids. I don't believe raids can get up here at all. And on top of that, the view is just to die for. The view here is absolutely phenomenal. So aesthetically, this is a fantastic place to build, and we've got a good mix of resources. Next up, we're checking out -213,249, and this is going to be a fantastic spot for farming pure quartz. Naturally, you don't unlock the mining site for this until level 51, so it is a fairly mid to end game resource. It does take a while to get to, so if you need some beforehand, this is the spot to be. The only downside of this, in my opinion, is that you've got this enemy base right here, but you might see that as an upside if you are trying to farm those regularly as well. Either way, a really good spot to get your quartz. And similar to quartz, sulfur is another material that you can't get until well and truly into the mid game at level 46. So this next one is at -596, -403 up on Mount Obsidian near the Astagon world boss. And we've got this little cluster of sulfur here. So there's a few locations on Mount Obsidian with these kinds of sulfur clusters, but this is just my favorite one. I really like the aesthetic of building into the side of the mountain here. I think it's a really cool spot that's a little higher than all of the others. So that's nice. It is a little challenging to build here, but that's part of the fun. You do have to make sure if you build your foundations over the lava, like you can see I've started, that you don't put them too close. Otherwise you do just burn and catch on fire as you start walking across them. But hey, maybe that's your thing. And while we're on Mount Obsidian, we should be checking out -856, -456, which is another location with 3 natural oil nodes. So before the Tides of Terraria Islands were added, this was the only spot with 3 oil nodes within the space of one base. And if you're just looking for something with a different aesthetic, maybe you want a grungier industrial vibe, then this might be the spot for you. Let me know in the comments down below if you'd rather see a build guide for an oil base in this location or on those Terraria Islands. Heading back to Faybreak, we're at -1061, -1435, and this time we're here to check out the best location for natural hexalite. So this is the only place where you can get 3 hexalite nodes, all within the space of one base. However, I don't really rate this one very highly because you get access to the hexalite mining site at level 61 anyway, so there's really not much time between when you would need hexalite and when you can just build that site and farm it anywhere you want. And aesthetically, this place is pretty drab. I'm not a fan of it, but nonetheless, I thought I'd better include it on the list just in case you wanted to know where the best place for these nodes is. But for the final entry into the best resource locations, we're at -483167 on the Sakurajima Island, because this is going to be one of the best spots for farming mushrooms. Now, whether or not you need mushrooms in abundance is a question I'll leave up to you, but if you do, then this is the spot to get them. It doesn't have to be this precise location. There's an entire swamp full of them out here, but this one has the most interesting surrounding environment, in my opinion. You get all of these little shacks, you get the lily pads and the swamp here, so it's a really nice spot. It is a bit of a challenge to build here, but again, that's just part of the fun. And all you're going to need is a lumbering pal to chop these down, and then some transporting pals to bring them back to the food box. And with those 10 out of the way, we're ready to move on to the next category, which is the most aesthetic location. So we're starting this one off with a banger at -973, 1180 around the crystallized tree. And this spot is absolutely breathtaking. You can see we've got all of these gorgeous waterfalls, we've got the pools, we've got the crystals themselves, and of course we've got this giant autumn tree, which is going to allow for some really cool treehouse builds. Now, the workability here is not the best. Of course, it is going to involve some creative workarounds, but if you are looking for something a little easier, you can even head a little to the southeast, where we've got this flat terrain here, which is still going to look fantastic. I'm not going to include this as a separate location, but just this entire area here is really exciting to build in. You can see this is where I put my original greenhouse build. If you want the build guide for this, it is available on the channel. And the reason I like this entire environment is you get this sort of orange tint to the lighting. So it created this really industrial look for this greenhouse, which I think really makes it pop. The lighting here looks really cool. Next up, we're at coordinates 198.68 over near the Lily and Lylene Tower to check out this frozen over volcano. Now, as is going to be the case with all of the aesthetic builds on today's list, this one does come with a particular set of challenges. The challenge here is the fact that you have to build underneath water. So in order to do that, you will need to utilize the Expedir glitch that allows you to get underwater, and then you'll be able to build foundation all along the bottom of this lake. And from there, you can extend the build up out of the water. But once you get it done, you do have a lot of flat open space. It's just that initial challenge of getting yourself underwater. And if you need a guide on how to do that, I'll leave a link to mine in the description down below. It's just going to be a quick 60-second short. Moving on, we're heading over to 362-320 next on the Marsh Island to check out this secret little underground hideaway. I absolutely adore this spot, but I haven't figured out what I want to build here. I've started playing around with a few structures. As you can see, I've got all of this structure up top. I know I want to start up here and then work my way downwards. I just haven't really got the plan in mind yet. If you've got any ideas on that, let me know about them in the comments down below. Or if you've already built something here, definitely head into the Discord and send me a screenshot. I'd love to check it out. And very similar to the previous one, at coordinates -455, -28, we have another underground theme. Now, the really cool thing about this one, which is different to the last, is that this is fully enclosed. So you don't have all those open areas exposing it to the rest of the map. Once you close or build over this one, that is it. You've just got a massive underground pit with all of this cool terrain underneath. So I have got some ideas in mind for what I want to do here. I'm going to be building some sort of mining base. The challenge is just working out all of the structure. As you can see, you have to play around with a big system of pillars or get some foundation down here going. I haven't quite figured it out yet, but definitely keep an eye out on the channel for something to come. I might even do a build guide if it's not too complex. All right, halfway through the aesthetic list now, we're at -540, -638 on Mount Obsidian, where we have the massive Anubis Way Shrine. We've got the waterfall behind it, we've got the lakes surrounding the workable area here, and that's the other nice thing, like this area doesn't just look great, it is also going to be incredibly easy to work with because you've got all of this flat terrain here, and even if you wanted to build into the lake, that's not going to be too difficult because it's really shallow, so you can get your pillars down into that nice and easily. I think this is just a good combination of two of the most important things we are looking for when we're talking about what makes a good base. Heading back to Sakurajima, we're at -671, 187 next to check out this canyon, and we've got it all here. We've got waterfalls, we've got cherry blossoms, we've got a decent amount of layering to work with. So the verticality here is going to be really nice if you can make it work for you. I think the biggest problem with this location is that they added this old thing. So we've got some neighbors now. At least it's not like the ugliest building in the world. It looks okay, I guess. I think I'd want to be building my PAL box over here anyway. So like, it's not too bad, but it is a bit of a downside. I wish they just didn't put it here. It would have allowed you to have a little more serenity and a little more seclusion, but you know, it is what it is. It's still an incredibly gorgeous spot, one of the best on the map. Definitely earns itself a spot on this list. Returning to Mount Obsidian for the next one, we're at -619, -279 by these castle ruins. Now, I forgot this one existed for a little while, but luckily I was doing a fly around before I put the list together just to see if I'd missed anything. And this is one that I had missed, but I've definitely included it on the list because this is incredibly cool. And there is a lot more of the castle down there to the east, but the workability down there is nowhere near as good as it is for this section up here. So I think once you get all of this sort of flattened out with some pillars, then you do have a lot of room to work with there. It's just going to take some engineering. You're going to have to put a lot of support in place. But either way, I think this one's pretty cool. It's a very unique location. I have seen a few restoration projects for this done already, and they all look incredible. So don't forget about this one like I nearly did. Definitely worth a spot on the list. This next one's another popular location over at -81, 193, and you might have seen a few people building here atop this ancient civilization tower because it's a really nice fit for the base radius. So you can see if you put your base in the middle, then the circle of the base is pretty much perfect with this outline of the ring. Now, the biggest issue with this area is that you can't actually place foundation into the middle of this section here, and I see a lot of people just sort of neglect this area. I even see a lot of other content creators talk about this spot in their base location videos, but no one really gives an explanation of how to build over this area. And in essence, you just need to treat it as if you are building over water. So you can see here, I've got my foundation starting from the outside where you are able to build in those outer areas. And then I'm just extending it with floor tiles over this central area and then using these pillars for support. Now, the added layer of complexity with this is that you do need to get the height just right. So you can see here, I've tried it with this foundation, which starts really low, and then I've extended my build, but you can't place any pillars here because you get this message saying that it overlaps with another object. This one here is a little bit higher, but still not high enough. You can see it still overlaps. However, once you get to about this height, then you can place the pillar where it's kind of just touching the top of the roof. And over here, you can see I've got it even higher where it's not it's touching the roof enough to create support, but it's not sunk into the roof at all. So as long as you do that and you're careful about the heights that you place these, then you can utilize this area pretty much fully if you wanted to. You could build all the way over this, and that way you're not going to get any wasted space. You don't have to relegate all of your nodes just to the outskirts. But we've got just 2 aesthetic locations to go, and this is where I wanted to cast my vote for 126-552, which is where I've started to build my mega base project. So I started with this tower, and as you can see, I'm expanding to turn this entire coast into a city. But I think even city aside, this environment here is just incredibly aesthetic. No particular area on its own is super special, but I think collectively you just have a lot going on here. You've got all of the shallow water inlets, which are really easy to build over, so you can build some stuff like this very easily. You've got whatever this thing is, which is just really cool. I think that might be the giant whale pal that they've teased us from the original trailers and that we're hopefully getting with version 1.0. But then you've just got good verticality. You've got little like cliffs that extend out towards the water like here. And then you've got nice rock ledges over here. You've got a little island if you want to work with that. And then you've just got beaches and palm trees. The sunlight here is just really cool. It's just got so much going on that I think collectively it's one of the nicest areas on the map. And in addition to that, this location also has a ton of fishing spots. So if you are looking to get some fishing done, this is going to be a great place to do it. I think there's about 15 nodes all around the coast here. So you've got heaps of these. There's only a couple of the rare spawns. I think there's one in here. There you go. Yeah, you got a couple of rare spawns in there. But either way, heaps of fishing to be done here. And it's just a really nice location to be at. For the final aesthetic entry, we're at 625-168 over on the Isle of Decayed Treasures. Now, this is a Tides of Terraria island, so there is going to be another one just like it. You could use Phantom Isle over to the west instead if you wanted to, but both of these are going to have this pirate ship here. So if you wanted to live out your days as a pirate of the Caribbean, then this is going to be the way to do so. You've got all of these little coves dug into the rock that you could work with, which are really cool. And because it is a Tides of Terraria update, you are going to get access to Kinship Peach spawns. So that's going to be a really nice way to farm those. And the workability here is pretty good. I mean, check this out. You've got all of this flat space over here and the water's pretty shallow, so you could easily build over that. There's just a lot going on here. Very easy to work with and a really unique spot. But with 2 categories down, we've got just 1 more to go, and that means we're checking out all of the best locations for workability, and we're starting this list off at 105-320 by this Autumn Beach, and this spot has all of the space that you are ever going to need.
So many activities!
So there's not going to be too much to say about all of the workable locations because essentially they're just going to be big open areas, but this one is particularly nice. You've got all of the autumn biome in the background there, and you've got the beach itself, which is really cool. You do have the oil rig, which is a little bit of an eyesore, but either way, it's still a really pretty spot. And you've also got access to the Pen King here, so that makes it a really good early game spot because you want to be heading down here anyway to get access to that Pen King at level 15 because that's a fantastic early game base pal. Next up, we're heading back to Sakurajima to check out -516-172, where we've got this flat ground around these mushrooms. Now, this isn't the largest spot on the workability list, but it is large enough for you to get 1 base in here and not have any difficulty with the terrain. You should be able to place anything, but it's also a really interesting and unique aesthetic location, so it's going to have that advantage over some of these others. And you've also got a couple of oil nodes here, which are pretty good for resources. It's pretty close to the other location we looked at where we were farming the mushrooms, which was just down there. So it's similar to that one, but a little bit further up and a lot easier terrain to build on. Moving on to the 3rd entry in the workability list, we're over at -317-10 on the Icewind Island. Now, this area does have a lot of trees in the way, but once you start clearing all of these out, there aren't many other locations on the map, if any, that have this much flat terrain. So if you can imagine all of these trees gone, there's nowhere else that is this flat. So you've got plenty of room to build and put all of your mega bases, whatever sort of structures you want in here. If you're on a multiplayer server and you and all your friends want to set up a base next to each other, this is going to be the island to do it on. You can see this is where I'm using to reconstruct my Helix Tower for the build guide. And even if you don't want to build down in these lowland areas, you could just build up on any of these plateaus here. They're nice and flat as well once you get all of the trees cleared out. So this is going to be a great one for any sort of mega base or multi-base setup. Next up, we're checking out -1197, -847 on the Faybreak Island, where we have this beach cove that is tucked away and protected by all of this rock shelving. Now, this used to be my favorite spot as a raid base, but you no longer really need a dedicated raid base anymore now that we've got the raid area feature, so you can just use any old base for that. But nonetheless, it is still a really open spot that is very flat, so it's going to accommodate all sorts of building, and it does have the added bonus of just being on Faybreak, which means all of your supply drops are going to have a 100% chance to drop a work suitability book. So that's a nice free bonus just for building on the Faybreak Island. At entry number 25 on the list, we've got -196, -704 on the Seabreeze Archipelago, and this is going to be another fantastic spot for early game players who are looking to find somewhere with plenty of room. Maybe you're on a multiplayer server and you want to share your base with your friends. This is going to be a great spot because the pals here are really low level. You can easily just blast these guys, take them down, no worries. And you've got a few ore nodes here. We've got some rock, we've got one ore node, and we've got a bunch of timber and stuff around as well. So plenty of room for logging. Oh, there you go. You got another ore node over here. So there's just heaps of these. And most importantly, there is plenty of space to build whatever it is you desire. And we're actually going to be sticking to the Seabreeze Archipelago for the next two locations because I think this entire area of the map is incredibly underrated. There's a lot of aesthetic locations here with plenty of workability, and this one is going to be at -76, -617 on this rock shelf that overlooks the sea. So I really like the aesthetics here. There is more workability down there. You can see it's a little bit flatter, but this one's not too bad. Like, come on, you can work with this. You can build over these very, very shallow rocks here, right? So like, there's plenty of room here for a base, and you get a little bit more of an aesthetic environment. You're protected by the natural barrier of this rock ledge, and you've got this little natural ramp that leads up to your base. You've got a little rock tunnel over here. I don't know, I'm probably nerding out about this one too much, but I really like this rock, okay? And for the last of our Seabreeze Archipelago locations, we're at -182, -532, where we have another rock shelf. But these are just really good because they create natural barriers for your base, so you're nice and protected, and we've got significantly more space here than we did with the last location. We've got more natural ore nodes. We've got two, I think, yeah, there's a third over there. And then we've also got the skill fruit tree here, which is going to be really cool. So another low level area with plenty of room to build where you and your friends can just set up shop. But we're heading back to Sakurajima for this next one at -649,271. And this one has some really good resources. We've got two oil nodes here. And the nice thing about these ones is they're really close together, which I prefer, to be honest, because you can kind of hide them away a little bit easier. And then we've got some sulfur over here and here, as well as some coal. Now, whether or not you actually need these resources, I don't really know, because if you're building on Sakurajima, you're probably high enough level to just have the mining sites anyway. But nonetheless, it's a really aesthetic location. You've got all of the cherry blossoms in the surrounding landscape, and then you've got these waterfalls down here. So if you're trying to roleplay and you're looking to build a resort for Mike and Eleven to retreat to, we've got Eleven's 3 waterfalls that she's after. And then if you want to head up here, you've got the enemy base nice and close, so you're going to be able to farm that one on the regular as well. But we've got just 2 to go, and this one's going to be at 415, -1, and I think this location would be fantastic for setting yourself up a sort of secret hideaway base. So you've got your own little beach here, you're protected by this mountain pass, and once again, we have one of these fantastic rock formations. You've got the rock shelf overlooking the water, you know I love those. And you've got some decent early game resources in this flat workable area. You probably do have to chop down a few trees to make this a little cleaner. You've got some coal there, you've got some ore. And my favorite thing about this is that the access to it is just via this tiny little goat path that leads to the Scars of War area. And this is going to be a really nice spot because if you are trying to farm Memogs for dog coin on the regular, then this is going to be the best place to do it. So your base is going to be nice and close for that. We've made it all the way to the end, and this last location is -478, -84, and this is just another cheeky little low-level area on the Forgotten Island. Plenty of space here to set yourself up a base. It's really flat, and you're very well protected from raids, because this little rock ledge here means that I believe raids cannot get up to you at all. So someone can correct me if I'm wrong on that in the comments. I'm pretty sure raids can't get up here at all, and you've got access to 4 ore nodes here, which is a decent amount for the early game. This is just a really good, easy to build spot. But that's going to do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. If there's any locations that you think I should have included on the list that I left out, let me know about them in the comments down below. Otherwise, thank you for watching. I'll catch you next time. Have a good one.